On this episode of This Must Be the Place, we're going to talk about the Seward neighborhood. For our real estate talk, we're gonna discuss what goes into pricing a home, some of the factors, both external and internal. And then we're going to talk with a good buddy of mine and former schoolmate of one Andrew Shields.
Schoolmate?
Schoolmate.
What are we, British?
Well, that's what happens when you go to high school with somebody, right? You're a schoolmate.
I suppose.
All right. His name is Ryan Elder, and he is a composer, gentleman, and scholar, and he's the man behind Rick and Morty. All the music that is in Rick and Morty. So we're going to talk to Ryan, get a little Seward, get a little home pricing, call it a day.
Let's do this.
All right.
This must be the place. Yeah, this must be the place. Ain't no time to waste. Ain't no time to waste. So whether you in Minneapolis or St. Paul, Bloomington to Maple Grove, from the east side to the west side, down south to way up north, let me hear you say, this must be the place. Yeah, this must be the place. This must be the place. Ain't no time to waste. Ain't no time to waste.
Hello, and welcome to This Must Be the Place, the only Twin Cities real estate and real estate adjacent podcast where one of the hosts' favorite pickup line is, damn, are you a state of Minnesota Department of Commerce real estate ethics violation? Because you got fine written all over you.
Oh, that's good. That is very
realtor.
and
it's very realtor, and it works on any part of the gender spectrum. You know, you can hit on anybody. It doesn't matter. You can use that anytime, anywhere.
Have you ever seen The Ladies' Man?
That's just disgusting.
When he said, "Was your father a meat burglar?" Because it looked like someone stole two ham hocks and put them in your pets. Or something like
that's
that.
just disgusting. So
I'd like to buy you a fish sandwich.
yeah, that's for the kids
That's a
listening.
good
that
movie.
Really know. They're really up to date on mid-90s Saturday Night
It
Live
is a
references.
classic.
It is
My son calls those movies, like all the Seth Rogen-y type movies, brocane movies, because it's a mix of like the bro humor, bromance, and like drugs.
Yeah,
So
he's
we get
right.
The brocane.
Yeah,
comedies.
he's totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All
right.
right. Well, on that note, let's get it started.
So what are we doing this week? Are we hopping right into Neighborhood Watch, or are we going to talk a little real estate?
We're going to start with the Neighborhood Watch. We're going to talk about the Seward neighborhood of Minneapolis.
Seward neighborhood.
Yeah.
On Neighborhood Watch.
And now, This Must Be the Place presents Neighborhood Watch.
Very briefly, the Seward neighborhood consists of, I'm reading this off my computer, the land bordered by Hiawatha to the west.
Was there ever a gang in like the 70s or 80s that like snapped a lot that carried like switchblades called the Seward Rats?
Oh,
and if
boy.
there wasn't, there should be.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a Sharks and
In the
Jets
Broadway
kind
musical
of,
version of Minneapolis?
Yeah.
Some writer out there, make that happen
All
for
right.
us. Sorry.
No. That's a good little tangent.
Yes, my bad.
We've got Midtown Greenway to the south, the river to the east, and 94 to the north. So Seward, named after this dude named William Seward, who, you know, people have probably heard of, but generally a good dude. Like, I did some research on him.
Not a racist.
Seemingly not.
Not part of some larger genocide somewhere.
Seemingly
Not
not.
a slaveholder.
No, he
Didn't
was.
treat women terribly.
I wasn't there, but he was.
All things look on the up and up for this guy?
Yeah, he's like a New Yorker, born in the South, but a New Yorker, an abolitionist, which is great. He ran for the the Republican nomination against Abraham Lincoln and lost.
Okay.
But he was so cool about it, and he loved Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln gave him a high up position in his
You're going to
cabinet.
be like, he was so cool about it. He met this guy, Lee Harvey Oswald. And
Went to a
was
play.
that
No, but he was seemingly a great dude who was a very progressive voice in a time of a lot of upheaval around the country. So
That's good. That means we don't have to rename the neighborhood.
I was just going there. Yeah, it seems
soon.
like it's going to be Seward for the foreseeable future. But yeah, that's kind of where the name came from, and a couple of data points about the neighborhood. It's a really, really old neighborhood.
Yeah, one of the oldest.
Yeah, for sure. It's gone through a lot of changes over the years. In the 60s and 70s, it was really kind of run down and really dilapidated and falling apart. And there was some community members that came in and really revitalized it. And
do you want to hear how old? Can I interject how old it is?
Please.
At one point, it was the southern border. Franklin Avenue was the southern border to the then town of Minneapolis.
The town
of Minneapolis.
And so the neighborhood grew after that. But that's crazy. Yeah, it's really old. Some of the homes there are 1870s, 1880s. But it's a really, really cool neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
Lots to do.
Data points out of the way. The median home price is $325,000 as of last month.
Affordable.
Affordable, sure.
The Twin Cities Metro, right? 10 minutes to everywhere.
10 minutes to everywhere.
That's affordable.
That's right. And median square footage is 1608. So the price per square foot is super reasonable.
What's that in my math world? That's 180s?
No, it's about 200. Which is these days, you can spend a lot more. I mean, you go
in the city, yeah.
Yeah, you go a couple miles southwest into parts of Edina, and you're looking
$700 a square foot.
$700 a square foot. So your 1,000 square foot home is $1 million.
Yes.
Actually, that's not that far off.
Depends on the finishes.
Yeah, it depends on the finishes. So I'm going to let Casey talk right now about some of his cool research that he's been doing and some of his favorite spots, and then I'm going to follow it up with a couple spots and take it away.
Well, first, welcome to our fireside chat today.
Very historical
winter
today.
is upon
Presidential
us.
history.
Yeah. In talking about the Seward neighborhood, there are basically three things I wanted to bring up. Memory lanes.
Love it.
Memory lanes is like an old school retro bowling alley. And all the old school vibes that entails. They have pretty good food there. They'll host local parties. They'll have music sometimes. And it's just a really cool kind of throwback to the heyday of bowling, probably from the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
You have live music.
Yep. So if you're looking for an experience with a group of friends or a real cute first date place to have it be a little bit out of the norm, or you just like
you can use that pickup line from earlier to get your first date.
It's true. Or you're a fan of the Big Lebowski.
True story.
Go check out Memory Lanes. It's a great little place.
Shout out Matthews Park, which is right over there too, where my kids have played a lot of sports over the years. I love that park.
Yeah. And then the second thing I wanted to bring up is a bar of their own, which is the tagline is a women's sports bar, all women's sports all of the time. Mm-hmm. Great food, great menu, bar food, burgers, smash burgers, wings, nachos, whatever. But they only play women's sports, and I think that's great. And what a perfect neighborhood to do that in, like a quirky, artistic, working class in the middle of the city neighborhood.
They couldn't have picked a better neighborhood to put
that's
that.
really welcome. It's right on Franklin, like 22nd and Franklin, somewhere around there, 22nd and a half in Franklin. It's a cool vibe, and especially when we talk about the links so much.
Yeah. When
this
the links
year,
were going,
women's sports, man, they're great right now. So if you want to go watch some women's sports in a community at a women's sports bar,
we got hockey coming up.
Yeah, go check it out. Really cool place.
Did you know that I don't know if they came up with the idea based on this, but previously, and it still exists, I believe it's in Portland, they've got a similar bar that has the best name I've ever heard.
Portland, Oregon, or Portland, Maine?
Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
It's called the Sports Bra.
Ah.
Isn't that a great name?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they just misspelled bar.
Yeah, I think that's the point.
Okay, all right.
Go ahead.
But so that brings me to the thing that I really am excited to talk about in the Seward neighborhood, because if you go right behind a bar of their own, which clever, right? A league of their own, it's bra. bar,
yeah.
league of their own,
Yeah.
bar of their own.
Yeah.
If you go right behind that, you have the Milwaukee Historical District, named after Milwaukee Avenue, which pre-1870, 1880 was 22nd and a half Avenue in Minneapolis. And this was an incredibly diverse neighborhood full of working class people and immigrants who were bakers and shoemakers and blacksmith, and then a lot of people that worked on the Milwaukee Railroad, which the railroad yards were right around there.
Yeah. It's at the railroad's still there, just east of Hiawatha.
Yep. And so they had these timber frame, brick clad structures, which I know, or I know today as, what's up with the tiny homes in Minneapolis along Franklin. So a little history is that neighborhood kind of grew throughout the 1870s, 1880s, and the Seward neighborhood, or that particular district of like 75 homes that remain today, really got solidified in about 1930 when, right after the Franklin Avenue Bridge over the Mississippi was finished. And so that neighborhood became like a really strong working class neighborhood in Minneapolis. And these homes were just really cool example of old school stick Victorian architecture.
Yeah.
And like you said, you get to the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and that neighborhood starts to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
Student housing, art housing, rental properties, stucco and bricks are falling apart off places. And the city of Minneapolis in 1970s wanted to do some like urban renewal project, right? When did they build 94? Do you know? Was that the 70s or 80s?
No, it was earlier than that.
Was it earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 50s.
Okay. So there was a big push to renew that neighborhood, and it got fought tooth and nail. And I don't want to butcher the name here, so I'm gonna look it up real quick. But there was a organization based in Minneapolis. It was like the Seward West Project Area Committee, which is the one that you alluded to. And they got together and they fought it tooth and nail and they won. And they got it a National Historic Registry designation. And they basically took the couple blocks just south of Franklin on 22nd and a half Avenue and made it a pedestrian walkway and saved 75 homes and fixed the brick and lifted the houses and poured foundations. And now you have this amazing community that's like a vibrant walking historic district right off of Franklin Avenue in South Minneapolis. And if you haven't been there and you're into architecture at all, go check it out because it's sweet. It's
100%.
It is like a throwback. The architecture, it's like you step back in history for a little bit.
Yeah, if you're ever even driving around in the area, just if you get a notion, just Google it where it is and just, drive through it and take a look because it's beautiful and super cool and unique.
There's an HOA that exists because they own like common structures, the walkways and the parking lots and everything else.
Right.
So, it's really cool. And I never knew what it was, but every time I drove by it, I was like, what's the deal with that? And I can imagine there are a lot of people that are like that. But I was really excited about the Seward neighborhood because it allowed me to kind of delve into that and figure out what was going on there.
Super cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just say about Seward too, people I know that have bought houses there or live there.
Love it.
There's like not many like neighborhoods. Everybody loves the neighborhood that they live in, but like people are fanatical about Seward because you've got the Seward Co-op there, which people travel from all around to go to the Seward Co-op, local grocery store. But yeah, people that live in Seward are fanatical about it and they love it and they are big proponents of living there. A couple of other things in Seward. United Noodles is I cook. I cook all the time. And that I bought a cookbook a few years ago called Every Grain of Rice by author unknown at this time because I can't remember her name.
Not
but
S.A. Cosby.
Not S.A. Cosby. No, her name doesn't even end with Cosby.
Okay.
Anyway, and I started going there bit by bit, just messing around with some recipes in the book. It's a Chinese cookbook from it talks about all the different regions of China, but United Noodles is my happy place for food, my daughter's happy place for food. I make this crazy good stir fry, usually at least twice a month.
Is it a restaurant or
No,
a grocery store?
there's a restaurant inside of it, but it's it's an Asian grocery store.
Oh, okay.
Huge.
All right.
And you can get vegetables there that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like gailan, which is Chinese broccoli. I mean, I had never even heard of it, and now I cook with it all the time.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Just unique ingredients all around the grocery store. It's super cool. If you like Asian food at all and you cook at all, go to United Noodles. It's right off of Hiawatha and 26th, just east of there. So on the west side of Seward. But yeah, and Coastal Seafoods is right next door.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's
all in one. Amazing seafood.
Yeah. Yep.
Chinese dish there.
That's exactly right, sir.
Sweet.
And the Playwrights Center, which I didn't know a whole lot about, but I was reading about, and the Playwrights Center is super cool. It's a nonprofit serving local playwrights, but also national playwrights. Promotes plays nationwide. It has grown and produced some notable playwrights. They offer fellowships. So the Playwrights Center is super cool, keeping Minneapolis and the Twin Cities unique with give us some street cred in terms of the art scene.
That's what I was going to say also is, not necessarily unique to the Seward neighborhood, but Minneapolis and Saint Paul in general.
Yeah.
Our small theater scene here, I believe, is the third largest in the country, behind New York and LA. Like per capita, we have so many great theaters, from like the Mixed Blood to the Pillsbury to the Penumbra, all these great little theaters all throughout the Twin Cities. And so we have amazing plays and shows that happen damn near every night of the week.
Yep.
So if you are into theater and live shows, you don't need to go to the Guthrie. You don't need to go to the Ordway or something.
No.
There are
Mixed
amazing things by local playwrights, national playwrights, with amazing actors that come in from all over.
Because I have, like I've said in a previous episode, like I have clients, out of town clients that are relocating here a lot.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first things they say. They're like, "Oh yeah, you guys have a really amazing like art and theater scene here." So people know.
Yeah.
The only other thing I want to shout out is Cafe Racer.
Oh yeah.
I've only been once, but
Colombian.
Colombian restaurant, but it's more than a restaurant. Like they do a lot of work with community engagement. They participate with school lunch vendors. They offer free meals that you can kind of apply for. And then they have one of my favorite things, and I can't remember it's a Colombian street dog. It's kind of like a Sonoran hot dog a little bit, but it's got cotija cheese, cilantro aioli, sriracha aioli, sweet peppers, French fries, crispy-ass French fries, and pico verde. It's like a experience that you can't get in the Twin Cities. What's that?
You didn't bring this
I didn't
to
bring
sample?
it. No. Nope.
We talk about this stuff a lot. Like clearly we talk about food a lot on this.
We do.
You because you love food, me because I'm fat. So
you're looking great.
Hey, I'm trying. So what we need to do, legitimately what we need to do is all the things we need to go back, research everything that we've
talked about.
Yeah. And do I
want that Colombian street dog right
episode.
now. I just talked about it and I'm like, I know it's all, we're recording in late morning, but I'm ready.
I say we don't get them and bring them back here when they're all weak.
Yeah.
I think we make a day of it and we go on location and we just film in the places real quick.
Yeah.
Eating with the mics on so everybody can feel
just
how
dripping
good
sauce down my shirt.
And then we put it all together.
Finish up with some ping pong.
This must be the place with a little bit of ping pong. I'm down. This is going to be a good episode.
All right.
It's coming.
It's coming. All right, that's it for Seward.
Yeah,
that's
great-
it for Neighborhood
great
Watch.
neighborhood.
But we love Seward, and
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, and if you do have any suggestions about neighborhoods that you want us to feature in the Twin Cities Metro, or I guess Twin Cities Metro is still the suburbs, but like any neighborhood that you want us to feature, drop us a line. This must be the place pod@gmail or 612-234-1889, and we will definitely check out the neighborhoods and report back. Or if there are any places or any food or any dishes, like let us know. We love to hear that feedback.
Word.
So we're going to get into what goes into pricing a home.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
What goes into pricing a home?
Well, a number of things. I just kind of wanted to talk about it because if you're thinking about selling your house now or any time in the future, there's a lot that goes into it, and homeowners and people that aren't realtors have access to a lot of what are they called?
Data?
Automated valuation models,
Sure.
AVMs,
Yeah.
like your Zestimate or things like that.
Your worthless estimate.
Yeah, which you're curious, so you want to know what your home's worth, and feel like you should go on Zillow and look at your Zestimate. It's probably not right in terms of
It's
assessing
zestiness.
its zestiness. Yeah, it's very zesty. But that's kind of their algorithmic value based model based
Sure.
on public domain stuff, right? Like
Yep.
what they have access to permits pulled for the city to see what work's been done, that kind of stuff, but they don't obviously really
Tax
know.
info, homes that are sold,
right,
closed. Yeah, all that
exactly
stuff,
right. Yeah, so that's what they're looking at. But when we're helping sellers try to get a sense of what their home is worth, we're looking at two things.
We go past the algorithm, don't we?
We go past the algorithm.
We go past
yeah,
the
we're going to go
algorithm.
way past. We're going to dig deep past the algorithm.
That's right.
So I'm looking at two things, and you can talk about what you kind of the way you talk to sellers about it, and
Sure.
and your mindset on it. But and I definitely didn't steal this from another realtor at some point and just use it for my own. Of course not. It's nothing I would do. But
Sources in the notes.
I say it is the math and the art. There's two things. There's math and art. The math is easy. It's price per square foot, right? How big's your house? What is the average, median, whatever you want to use at that point, price per square foot in the neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just do the math.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a 2,000 square foot house and your neighborhood is looking like $200 a square foot,
Easy math.
$400,000. Easy. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to figure out value. So in addition to that,
Now the art.
now the
comes in.
art. And the art is a lot. The art is how long have you lived here? What have you done to the home since you've lived here? Does it look like it's right out of 1987? Or has it been updated in a tasteful way? Does it make sense? Have you added finished square footage? Have you finished the basement? Have you done a full kitchen remodel? What has the garage been doing? You know, all that kind of stuff. And then we look at that in comparison to other properties in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a micro way to figure out value. And then, you know, you can do a whole macro. I always start with macro with like price per square foot, where I look at the Twin Cities as a whole. And then I really get down into the nitty gritty of the micro with, let's say, Seward. And then I'm looking at similar homes that have sold in the last 6 months
Sure.
in the area, just to really get a sense of what the value is
Sure.
right now, and looking at pictures of homes that have sold in the last 6 months to see, hey, are they as updated as your home?
Mm-hmm.
Are they less updated? How are we going to figure out value based on that?
Really understanding the neighborhood dynamic when you're pricing a home is also incredibly important, right? Because in addition to everything that you said, and a lot more, right?
A lot more, yeah. We're broad brushstrokes right now.
Where the home is in any particular neighborhood can also dictate sort of the max, or the cap of what that area is willing to or will yield for
Yes.
selling a home, right? And I don't want to pull any specific neighborhoods, right? But you're in X neighborhood and you are south of Y street, right? If you know that neighborhood really well, you know that it is more desirable to be north of Y street.
Correct.
For whatever reasons, right?
Yep.
So you may pull comps from, let's say, a mile radius or a 10-block radius or whatever you want to do, right, to really try to narrow down in that neighborhood. But if 8 of your comps are north of Y street, but you know the neighborhood and you know that for some reason or another, value's not quite as high there, if you understand that dynamic, you can price your home more appropriately based
For
on
sure.
where it specifically is in the neighborhood dynamic versus the neighborhood comp.
For
right?
sure, because you're going to throw those comps out especially if you know the area. You're totally right.
Which is why you want a realtor who knows the neighborhood
Yeah.
or is willing to learn the neighborhood.
correct
Right?
to do the work and to talk to you as a seller to be like,
Yep.
hey, what have you been seeing?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you think your home's value is? Why do you think your home's valued at that?
This doesn't necessarily go into necessarily the final value or the final range of values that you present to a seller and say, here's kind of what I'm thinking, where do you want to be? Because generally, what you'll do is you'll say, we can go from 300 to 325 grand, right? Like there's my range of where we should price this home.
Yeah.
And you generally talk to the sellers about the benefits of pricing to the high side, right? Versus pricing to the low side. But what I find is talking to sellers and understanding why they love the home and what works for them about the home. And then in terms of pricing, talking to the sellers about what's important to them about me selling their home, right? Is getting it done quickly because we have to line up closings so you can get into another property and not be on the hook for 2 mortgages, or maybe you're contingent upon the sale of your home and you don't want to let that sit for too long. Or maybe you're in no rush. You have plenty of financial ability to carry this mortgage and be somewhere else. And what you want out of me selling your home is top dollar, right? And so when you have that discussion with a seller, then you understand their motivation, and you can say, well, if we need to get this quick and our range is 300 to 325, then maybe let's get this thing priced at $299.9. You know what I
sure.
mean? You're giving up $100 to throw a 2 in front of that number, and now you're way more appealing and coming up on way more searches because people are capped out at 300.
Right.
Versus someone who says, hey, I want to see if we can get top dollar for this, and maybe you push it to 330 if they're willing to sit and see what happens and entertain price cuts later, right?
And
as long as you have those conversations with your seller.
Yeah,
So.
and seller's motivation is like a 3-legged stool, right? You've got, what do they want? Do they want the most money? Do they have to sell quick? Or do they want it to be easy? Like
Yep.
those are the 3 things.
Yeah.
And you can't have all 3, but yeah, that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, generally in your analogy, like if you were to put it on the market for $299, you're much more likely to sell it for faster and for more than if you were to sell it for $330. But it just depends on the seller's motivation and what they need.
And understanding that as a realtor is a big part of the job, right? Like having those conversations.
For sure.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. All the bedrooms on one level, more desirable, less desirable?
It depends on the person.
Oh, okay.
I mean, generally that is a search criteria you can have on Northstar MLS, our local MLS here. You can check the box that says all bedrooms on one level or all bedrooms upstairs or whatever.
How about something more like underground footage versus above ground finished square footage? Does that play into how you price the house based on total finished square footage? Right, you have a property that's 3,000 square feet and 2,000 of it is above ground.
Yeah.
Versus a proproperty at 3,000 square feet where 2,000 of it is below ground.
Yeah.
Are you going to price those two differently?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah. We could talk for hours about this because there's tons of things that go into pricing a home. But I mean, long story short, trust your realtor, talk to your realtor, communicate with each other. It's a pretty, great but intensive relationship, especially when you're trying to figure out what value is.
Yeah.
Looking at comps and things like that. But that's about all
I think I would say.
I mean, I've got a lot to talk about it, but I mean, that's a really good.
I think every week we say we're going to keep it short. We're gonna keep
I know
it brief.
that's
And
what I'm
every
trying to
week
do
you
right
go-
now, and I'm like, God,
you
damn.
go brevity.
Yeah, brevity,
and it's
and
never
it's out the window.
brief. So I'm fully in support of keeping this one short. I will say that, like you said, trust your realtor. But if you don't have a realtor, hit us up. It's what we're here for. If you are out of state and you don't have a realtor, hit us up. We are happy to screen realtors for you in your state based on what you're looking for, based on the vibe that we get.
We
to
have
make sure that-
listeners in Europe. We
Yeah.
have listeners in South America.
Yep.
We
Yep.
do. I looked at the map. Not that we can help a lot with real estate in Argentina, but
6 episodes in, we're worldwide.
Yeah, worldwide.
Worldwide
3
golden
continents.
shields. But hit us up. If you need a resource, we preach it over and over again. If you need a resource, that's what we're here for. That's what this podcast is designed for, to provide a resource to people who are new to the market or getting in the market or casually pay attention, and they want a little bit of info, but they also want to be entertained. Like that's why we're here. So hit us up. This must be the place. pod@gmail or 612-234-1889.
I
Do you remember that one
I
yet?
got to remember that number.
Okay.
I'm working
All right.
on it.
So today on This Must Be the Place, we have a very special guest. His name is Ryan Elder. He is the man behind the music behind Rick and Morty. And Rick and
The
Morty
theme
is
song, and as well as all of the music
Everything.
that exists in the Rick and Morty
everything
universe.
music related in that universe is Ryan Elder created. He is a genius at what he does. If you've watched Rick and Morty, you know that music is an integral part of that show, whether it's features with Ice-T about alphabets on a weird planet, or
music
just-
montages in the middle of an episode.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm lucky enough to know him from college. You went to high school with him.
I did.
And so we thought it would be a really interesting and fun guest to have on this podcast. And luckily, he wasn't doing anything Wednesday
It worked out.
and said, yeah, let's do it. So without further ado, we gonna bring you
Ryan Elder and Grammar.
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being able to do this on such short notice.
Oh, yeah.
Said, who is the
Yeah.
most interesting person that I know?
It's a lot
Well,
to live up to.
I went to school with both of you.
Yeah,
Not the
Yeah.
same school. So,
yeah. I said my
We go
old
back.
college friend and your old schoolmate, and I was chastised for sounding like some sort of British weirdo.
Me and Andrew wore short pants
He then
and-
went on to university at Cambridge.
yeah.
AKA McAllister in St. Paul.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
it's the Cambridge of the Midwest, right?
That's what people are saying. People are talking.
Word on the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe for the audience, the millions and millions that are watching and listening right now, could you tell us, just a brief introduction of who you are and what you do and what makes you
Sure.
so goddamn special?
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm Ryan Elder. I write the music for Rick and Morty on Adult Swim and other shows. I've been writing music for media for the last 24 years. I just had to check what year it was for some reason.
Yeah.
And I started working on commercials, and I did that for a long time. And then I got into TV, and that's what I do now. Been fortunate enough to work on a hit show, which is kind of the dream. So, yeah.
How long has the show
That's
been
me.
going on?
We started working on it in 2011. It didn't air till 2013. So 11 years it's been on the air. and we just got picked up for 2 additional seasons on top of the 3 more seasons we already had contracted. So we have 5 more seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. It doesn't make any sense, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
I feel like you might be asked this question quite a bit in things that you do, but like, was there a point, or when did you know that this was the one, that Rick and Morty was going to be the show that
Was going to be sticky, like just
that became a cultural sort of phenomenon?
I think, when you work in TV, you get used to the idea of sort of going, well, this could end at any moment, right? Like, because most shows are renewed on a season by season basis. So I would say the point at which I was like, okay, probably got this in the bag as a career on this show only if I want it, when they renewed us for 70 episodes all at once.
Oh, wow.
That was after season 3. So I don't know when that was, 2018, maybe something like that. And that kind of security in this business is unheard of. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's never been a show that's been renewed for that many episodes all at once, like a commitment that big. So I was like, okay, now I just have to like not get fired. And I got work for the next 10 years. So that's pretty amazing.
I think part of the reason is the music is so integral to the show, and that kind of paired with, is it Dan Harmon?
Yeah, Dan's the showrunner.
Yeah,
or he's not the showrunner. He's one of the co-creators.
The co-creators, and just the writing is just tremendous, and it is appealing to anybody from like 6 to our old asses, So.
Yeah.
I do think the music is really feels like uniquely woven into the fabric of the show. Like it's almost its own character of some sort.
That's cool that you say that. That is good because that's like the goal, right? With any as a TV composer, is to create a palette of sound that is unique to the show, that feels like the show when you hear it. And that feels like, frankly, I don't really want people to notice the music that often, right? Like, that's not the point. The music is supporting the story. I want them to notice the story, and I want them to feel a certain way because of the music and because of what the story is doing. There are times when I want to stand out and be like, okay, this is a music moment. Please pay attention.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like, each episode has on average 12 to 14 minutes of music. And for the most part, I want, 11 to 13 of those minutes to be things you don't even really notice when you're watching. You just sort of feel it. And that's one of the things Dan Harmon has really helped me understand. A lot of his thing is like, he wants less music. I always overscore because it's easier to take something out than it is to write something at the last minute. So he likes a lot of space for comedy, a lot of space for dialogue, and I've sort of tailored my music to work that way.
But you're doing something right when I feel like they release half of your shit on Spotify as singles. That's got to be pretty cool.
If by doing something right you mean harassing them so they release them as singles, then
yes. Well, then, you're handling your business in the right way then.
Well, and the intro song is iconic, right? And to me, it sounds like, because I was in preparation for this morning, I listened to the intro a couple times, and I was like, was Ryan was he instructed to kind of for this vibe? Like, it kind of to me sounds like krautrock, right? A little like Noi and a little like Kraftwerk, but like supernatural too. Was that like intentional? Or
Andy's a big music guy, so you guys can probably have some good conversation. It must be something about Sibley in the water there. You guys would have
don't
some
call it that
interesting
anymore.
No, we don't.
Two Rivers.
Two Rivers, yeah.
But
yeah.
What was the process?
It was a big music school. If we could digress.
Digress.
There were like, no joke, like 25 rock bands that made up of almost entirely different people when I was there.
Shout out Al Del Greco.
Like so many, right?
Yeah.
It was, I said it was like a rock band magnet school for a while. It was just crazy how many we do these shows. On like New Year's Eve, they called it New Year's Eve jam. And there would be like 20 bands and it would be all students, like each and every band. It was crazy. And, so yeah, there was like a lot of music going on there. And I think a lot of us came out of there going, we could probably do something with this.
Are there a lot of people that have turned that into careers besides yourself that you
Yeah,
keep in touch
I mean,
with?
my brother-in-law is
Okay.
a producer and a mashup DJ, sort of became, I would definitely say, world famous in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, Hood Internet,
early
right?
2010. Yeah, the Hood Internet.
Yeah.
And he was in your grade.
Yep.
And then there are other people too that I know have gone on to other stuff too that I'm drawing a blank on. Several DJs that work as active DJs, and it's just there was just a lot of creative energy there when we were there. It's kind of strange, but anyways, to get back to your original question about being inspired by krautrock, not directly, although I know what you're talking about with that sort of pulsing blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, synth sound. It's
Yeah.
very like retro synthy. And I think part of the inspiration was a retro 70s adventure sci-fi sound. In particular, the big reference for me at the time was the Doctor Who theme song. But also, there's another cartoon called Invader Zim that has a really cool theme song that I was sort of loosely inspired by. But mainly, I just wanted to like make it feel adventurous and sort of different than what you were sort of hearing in adult animation at the time, which was a lot of songs, like the whole Family Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Broadway
Always has, like,
almost, right?
yeah.
What's that process like for you? Does the inspiration live in your head as sounds, or is it you're tooling through different soft synths or different sounds and something happens and you're like, that's it, that's the sound that sparks the idea, that's the pattern, that's like, how does that? What's your process when it comes to composing things like that? Or does it change?
For a main title theme, you want it to be memorable, right? So the trick is to get to that memorableness as soon as possible. And often that inspiration comes from various places. If we want to take the Rick and Morty theme for an example, the first thing I found for sure was the recording of the orchestra that I used, which is, and I say this with no shame, it's from a sample library. It's from a loop library, that orchestral recording. And it just like had the build and drama that I was looking for. And I started with that. And then I added like all of the synths and all of the percussion and all of the things that sort of give it character beyond just being a straight orchestral recording. So in that example, it was like, it was in a way an almost already existing piece of music, almost like a sample or something that I took, right? And repurposed for this. It, was royalty free. So I'm not breaking any laws or whatever, but like the idea being like, I did come at it as almost a remix.
Yeah.
Not consciously, but that's how it ended up being.
That's kind of what blew me away working with you over the years, is, getting to open up your Pro Tool sessions and see how this stuff was put together, and you being just unashamed of being like, that's from a loop library, that's from a loop library, I tweaked this here, I composed this here, because the end result is what matter, and oftentimes in your industry, like speed is everything.
Yeah.
Like you can't spend 40 hours obsessing over the perfect snare hit like you're some, true school hip hop producer.
Steely Dan or something.
Yeah, like it's so I always kind of admired how you were able to take that stuff and turn it into something that felt unique to you and your voice. And that's not even Rick and Morty. Like I because I've known you for so long, Wizards of Waverly Place and a million Disney cartoons and otherwise that either went final or didn't go final, that all felt like your voice, even though they were really different and tailored to what the show was as well.
Yeah, well, I do think that mentality of going, well, I'm going to use every resource at my fingertips, right? And not like worry about samples or whatever. That I do think that that's sort of a modern approach that comes from obviously the hip hop world initially, but like the idea that like I can make a collage of all these things and manipulate them and use them in unexpected ways to create my own music is like sometimes frowned upon by the more traditionalist composers, not that John Williams would necessarily frown upon it. I don't know his opinion on this, but people who do things that are like full orchestra only, right? And think that every show needs a full orchestra and it needs to be conducted and recorded. All of that is like, okay, no, that's not the modern world we live in, right? Like music is almost all modern music is a pastiche of pre-existing things. Like look at all the shit that's just interpolation now, right? Like huge #1 pop hits that are just repurposing one line from an Elton John song. I always think of that one.
Yeah,
right. Or that Tom Tom Club song that just every 5 years is just another hit song, right?
Do you have feelings about that from like a purist standpoint, or are you just like, no, bring it on? Like,
no, man, I'm a huge fan of using whatever you feel like using, and it works. The reason it keeps getting done is because it works.
So how does the hot button issue, and I'm sure it's in your industry as well, everywhere is AI at this point. How do you feel about the use of that? Is that just another tool, or is that does that present its own set of challenges? And
well, so I think the problem with AI is that there's no way to really legally, the way that the AI music creators work right now, like Sudo and whatever it is, Suno and Udio. I don't remember what they're called.
Yeah.
The way they work, as I understand,
names.
I'm no expert. Yeah, I'm no expert.
Agreed.
Is that they're not legally using the music. Like they're using all these pre-existing recordings, but they're not legally doing it. So that's the difference, right? Like anyone who uses that Tom Tom Club sample now to create their own new song is paying whoever owns the rights to that Tom Tom Club song. So I'm all for it if people are credited and given, their due.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's why I make a point of saying, like, I use royalty-free samples on stuff. And it's because, like, I bought the rights to do that. So it's all above board.
So you're saying that I can sample the Rick and Morty theme song and create a world-dominating rap record, and you will sign off on the rights? Is that what I just heard?
Well, I don't own the rights, so no. But Clipping did use elements. Clipping did use elements from the theme song for a song that was on the Rick and Morty soundtrack. Actually,
sure.
They used that like pulsing synth thing, I think.
Okay.
So it. I mean, it's always, if it's negotiable, you just got to reach out to the right people.
For sure.
I personally don't know who those people are. And I do get requests to like, hey, can we use this for this or whatever? And I'm always like, I don't own. That's something I think that's like kind of not really known about media composing, is the vast majority of the music I've written over the last 24 years, I do not own. I sign away the publishing and I sign away the masters. It's just part of the deal. Like you literally couldn't do what I do if you were like, I'm not doing that. Unless you were huge already. Like, Billie Eilish probably owns the masters to that song from Barbie, for example. Like,
sure.
But like underscore, anything that's just like background music, that stuff's all owned by the network or the production company. But usually it's owned by the giant corporate conglomerate that owns the network.
Sure.
In my case, Warner Brothers, Discovery, whatever they're called. So all of that music is just owned by them, and they can do whatever they want with it without my permission. Like, I mean, they've already gotten my permission to do whatever they want with it.
Sure.
So yeah, unfortunately, I don't even know who you contact to like get the rights to the music I've written.
So I guess switching gears a little bit, aspirationally, is there something in your career that like is a goal for you, that you would love to have happen when it's all, when you hang it up and you're ready to retire, to say, I did that? I mean, whether it's, I'm not trying to put aspirations to you, but whether it's win a Grammy or score a feature length film or, score the Star Wars 14 or whatever it is there something that like that you would love to do? And it can be as niche as possible.
Yeah. I always used to say what I really, really want is like a Seinfeld, something that runs on network TV for 7 to 10 seasons, 100 episodes. It gets, but that's because primarily that was financially motivated, right?
Sure.
Because that's the like easiest amount of work for the most amount of money that you can find in media composing is doing a sitcom that goes for 10 seasons.
That made a killing off the funkiest keyboard bass line ever.
Yeah, and it's incredible. It's an incredible score. It's so simple. That guy's a genius for sure. But genius aside, like there's lots of sitcoms that went a long time that weren't scored by geniuses, but they made genius money. So I always wanted to do that, although I think that idea is sort of disappearing now because of the TV landscape. It's just it's not as much of a lottery ticket. But
sure.
I'm not really a film guy. I don't even really watch movies, so I don't really want to do a movie. Frankly, I'm so happy with the way my career has gone. It seems almost like insane for me to want something more. I don't know a single composer that wouldn't take what I have, like a TV composer that wouldn't take, 70 guaranteed episodes on a show that's like culturally relevant and is fun to work on and not hard to work on. And, but I guess, I did think, well, maybe I want to make like a pop record or an EP or something with like a bunch of top lines, collaborations and stuff would be fun. Pop music is my favorite, so I listen to a lot of that, and it'd be fun to like see if I could do something interesting. It's
not like you don't have like a Saving Sarah Marshall yearning to create a Dracula inspired theater show.
No. I mean, although that does sound fun.
I was going to ask, like, what if, Quentin Tarantino calls you up and he's like, I got my last movie, because he said he's only going to do X amount of movies and whatever.
Yeah.
And I want you to do the OST, and I want you to come up with some original material as well as, hand select 12 historical songs from the 70s and 80s or whatever to Matt, like...
You'd be the music soup.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you're triggering my imposter syndrome to a degree that is
God. You are a
of.
Midwesterner, aren't you? I fully have that.
I mean, yes, there's certain things I would not say no to, right? Like, I don't have an interest in doing a movie, but obviously there's things I would not say no to.
Right.
In fact, I did a documentary, and it's the documentary about Dan Harmon, and I said yes to it because it was Dan Harmon. Like, he's made my career. Like, I can't say no to him, I mean, I can say no, obviously, and we're friends, so he's not going to be mad, but like, I feel like, I like working with him. So, there are definitely movies I would say yes to. There's all sorts of things I would say yes to that if the situation was right, but I'm not out there actively trying to do movies.
For sure. Okay. Off the beaten path type stuff. If Rick and Morty were to have an episode or take place in Minnesota, what city, town, or neighborhood would that episode take place in? and this might get too far, and B to that, what might be the plot of that particular episode?
Oh, Lord. That's putting him on the spot.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think it's got to involve the Mall of America just because that's what you think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's also like kind of the funniest, dumbest thing about the Twin Cities.
Yes.
That a lot of
Those
people
two
would like
words are
instantly.
the best words to describe the Mall of America.
Yeah.
Funny and dumb.
But I think you gotta have a scene that's set in that crazy place in northern suburbs. I think it's where is it? New Brighton, maybe, where there's like those giant military white structures that come out of the ground, just like a big field of them. I can't
You know what he's
remember what
talking
it's
about?
called.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I might have to go research this.
When I lived in Roseville, we'd drive by it all the time, and it just looks insane. I think it's in New Brighton. Anyways,
Okay.
it just looks very sci-fi there.
Yeah.
So I think we could set a scene there. I don't know what the plot would be though. Maybe how Minnesota has the best pizza and nowhere else comes
Oh
close.
my God, what a hot take that is. Expound on that.
That's too personal. Maybe
Expound.
I'm injecting
No,
myself.
please. I want to hear more about this. We talk a lot about food. We're both from the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We both, like food, and we've talked just earlier today about all the places we've talked about food-wise, about going there on location and filming while eating what we talk about and turning that into an episode. So
Yeah, you got to do it.
I want to know what is so special about, because it is really different coming from the East Coast and then thinking Chicago deep dish. And like when I got here, I was like, what in the fuck am I
know, right?
eating?
Yeah.
What are your top, this is a good one. What are your top pizza places and what makes them so special?
Well, I like that style and for me it's Carboni's. But let me
Describe
just
the
say,
style.
first of all, let me preface this by saying I know I'm like the guy who only listens to music he listened to in high school when it comes to pizza. Like I like it because I grew up on it.
Yeah.
I fully understand that, right? But the style is, I don't even know what they call it. I've heard it called St. Louis style, Midwest style, even sometimes Detroit style, although I think that's slightly different.
That's different.
That's
Yeah.
a rectangle.
Yeah.
Basically, the crust is an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's barely there. The crust itself is relatively flavorless because the key is the toppings and cheese go all the way out to the edge. There's very little edge crust. And the little edge crust there is gets crispy, and that's great. But there's slightly sweeter sauce, more cheese than your average New York pizza for sure. And the toppings go under the cheese. And I think that's absolutely the most important thing. And I think it's sort of overlooked as being
It's like
the
a
most
cheese
important
blanket.
thing. It is. And the texture is better as a result.
It's the hedgies, right? Like that.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what you're talking about. Or
kind that you can-
Carboni's.
yeah.
Or even like
Yeah.
Parkway Pizza is in my neighborhood, and they call it Minneapolis style pizza, and it's exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking
So
about.
Carboni's, is there a specific Carboni's? Do they vary, or are they all equal in your eyes? Because I have an opinion on this.
They do vary quite. Because it's a franchise, it's not.
Yeah.
They're all. So we're talking about shades of gray here because they're all mostly the same.
Okay.
And certainly when you compare it to pizza outside of the Twin Cities, they're all the same.
The
basically,
one that
when
you grew
compare
up
it to
on, was that the
nearby.
one on the west side off of like Annapolis and Smith?
That's West St. Paul,
it's
not the
on
west
Yeah,
side.
West St. Paul,
my bad.
Wentworth, and Robert.
Yeah.
And it's still the one I go to now.
Okay.
But I also like the one on Randolph a lot. The one in Egan's pretty good, although they're not open enough. They have weird hours. Frankly, I've never had a bad Carboni's pizza, so I think they're all good.
Carboni's, to me, when you eat it there, is a very different experience than when you get
Yes.
it to go.
Yes. I think that
It's
pizza
the crunch.
is better
It's
hot.
the texture
Yeah.
of the crust, which doesn't matter until it does. Like that little bit of crunch and crisp on the end of that pizza is great.
Yeah, the corner piece, the little triangle,
Yep.
that's the best.
Oh yeah, you get all four of those first.
You'll be sad to know, though, Carboni's, and maybe you do know this because, so Ryan he winters in LA and summers in the Twin Cities metro.
Yeah,
for the
I get
most
the
part.
best of both.
They did away with the bags. at Carboni's.
The paper bags?
Yeah, so you put the pizza in, it's
Yeah.
hot, you flip it
Yeah.
over,
Oh,
it
yeah,
puffs
yeah,
up.
yeah.
It's all boxes now. They've gone away from it. It's a little bit of nostalgia.
I barely
taken
remember
away.
the bags, but yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah, I always
Ryan,
eat there.
I like your
never get it to go.
take. It's a spicy take that a lot of people will disagree with. I'm here for it.
I don't understand. I have introduced people from LA to Carboni's, or even Red Savoy is also like very good, especially the original.
The original,
St. Paul
which,
location.
yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, the new ones are not the same.
Yeah. The franchise ones are fine. It's good. It's that style of pizza. No matter
Yeah.
what, it's going to be better. But I have introduced people to it. They don't believe me when I tell them because it's describing it and looking at a picture of it. It kind of looks gross, right?
Yeah.
Like it's mostly
Yeah.
cheese. You're like, well, that's just all cheese. But when they try it, they're always like, holy shit, you're
Yeah.
right. This is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's really not like pizza as people know it outside
Yeah.
of the Twin Cities.
It's
It's a different experience.
the house special at Carboni's is what we go for. House special, no fish.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
everything. They put everything on that goddamn thing. It's just like pizza and then a lump.
It is. It gets mounded up when they do all the toppings. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's great.
We got okay, we got some time here. Okay. I want to know, since you're a big fan of pop music, top 5 pop bands in your opinion. No particular
Top
order.
5 pop.
But what is
bands.
a pop band?
Yeah, and define pop. Are we talking like
I mean,
Sabrina Carpenter?
Like, is Weezer a pop band?
I think anyone who has a top 40 song is considered pop in my
Okay.
mind. If you make it into the top 40, the Billboard top 40, the American top 40, you are a pop hit. Whether you're like in the rock genre or the what's considered the pop genre, whatever.
Sure.
But if you want to just go, we could just go by Grammy, like the Grammy categories.
Oh,
right?
I was
The
just
pop
going by your
category
personal taste, but you seem
Yeah.
to be spot on with what
Well,
wins more
I'm a
Grammys is
Grammy
better.
voter, so and I am sort of chart obsessed. So I
you
think
read,
like right now,
Go ahead.
It's hard to deny the power of Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You have to start with her because nobody else can put out a record and get every single song in, like the entire top 15 is every song on her record. Like a few people can do that. I think Drake has done it. But right now it's definitely her. Even though I don't really love her 2 most recent albums.
Yeah.
You have to
Beyonce,
talk-
interestingly, Beyonce
Yeah.
appropriately, I think, got more Grammy nods because it was a better
Yeah.
record, but it seemed Taylor's release kind of took the wind out of that sail.
Oh man, it's so annoying to me that Beyonce gets every bridesmaid award, but she never gets to be the bride in the Grammys. It's fucking frustrating. That's why album of the year, record of the year, I'm voting for Beyonce this year, no question.
Even though it's not like one of.
Are you a voting? Are you a voting member of the
Yeah,
Academy?
I'm a Grammy voter. Yeah. And I like last year it was Sia who got not Sia. The Kill Bill song. What's her name?
Oh,
I'm drawing a
SZA.
blank. SZA. She got robbed. Absolutely should have been.
Dude,
should
that
have been,
album was
record of the year.
amazing. It was
Yeah,
on
and
repeat in my house for like 2 months.
I think it's a problem with Grammy voters. They're trying to like open up their voter base to be more diverse, but it's a problem right now where, the most broad, frankly, white acts are winning those big top 4 awards. Album of the year, record of the year, best new artist. And there's 4 that you get to that everyone gets to vote on. And then as a voter, you have to choose subcategories that you can only vote in 3 subcategories beyond that. So I always vote in pop and production and TV and film, obviously.
Sure.
But
Can you vote for yourself?
well, yeah, absolutely. But I've never been nominated. I've never even submitted. You have to pay. I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay a bunch of money to not even get nominated, because it's just unreasonable to think I would even get to the nomination phase for anything I've done.
Dude, that Moon Men, was that what it's called? Moon Men? That
well, maybe we could have done it with
Bowie
that, because that was
sounding like collab with
Yeah.
Jermaine Clement. Like that is, I wouldn't, you said the word pastiche earlier, and maybe it's a little of that, but it's so well done.
Yeah.
Like it's great.
Thanks. Yeah. I would say that's one of the more memorable songs we've done, but, and he was amazing to work with, by the way.
Oh, you can tell he's just a good
He's
dude.
way better than Brett.
That's the word on the street, at least.
Yeah.
So, you can vote for yourself. In fact, I stopped doing the voting for the nominees. You know, there's the 2 rounds. You vote for the nominees, which is like you're looking at a list of 2,000 people or something. It's insane.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are these people who have no shot willing to pay the whatever it is, the $500 or whatever to submit? Like, you're just throwing money away, but whatever, you do you. Maybe you'll get lucky. But when I stopped doing that, because I'd look in the TV and media section, I'd be like, well, first of all, I'm not watching all these. I can't. There's not enough time in the world to like actually do this category justice. I can watch 5 nominees. I can't watch 1,000 or whatever there are to choose once you narrow it down. So I was like, oh, let me just vote for my friends, which it felt weird, right? Like just doing that. So I stopped voting in the nomination period because I just didn't feel like I could do it justice. And I think that's the problem, is people are voting and not actually listening. They're voting on reputation.
Yeah. And that lends to what you were saying earlier, just about it just seems like a lot of the voters, the majority of the voters are they have no idea what's going on, because even when they try to like acknowledge hip hop as an art, they're giving awards to the guy from Seattle with the Macklemore, like that kind of stuff.
But that went all the way back to Jethro Tull over in Metallica. I feel like it's like voting.
Oh, this is a problem with the Grammys for literally as long as they've existed.
I feel like it's a problem with America. Because if you even just come to our last election, we'll keep presidential politics out of it, but go vote for all the district judges in Minnesota, and you're just like, man, I got no idea who any of these people are or what they stand for or what they think, and you're either doing it randomly or you're just not doing it, or you're voting for the 5 signs that you've seen in your neighborhood, and you hope that your neighbors are more informed than you are, you know?
Yeah, or you're spending an hour or 2 like researching, Googling these people. Sometimes all they have is a Facebook page.
Yeah, but very few people do that, right? So
yeah, I mean,
I would imagine it's the same with the Grammys.
Yeah, but
totally.
That's Grammy voters. I mean,
you would think
have a responsibility. I mean, I know as voters we do too, but
the Grammys are much higher responsibility.
No. I just mean it's an assigned position where you're meant to spend, a week with an album, and it's supposed to.
Let me just say, you're also paying for the right. You have to pay an entry fee to be a Grammy member. Like, you have to pay dues, right? So you're like paying for the right to be able to vote. Why wouldn't you put some effort into it?
Yeah,
like it's like people who go to college and just like don't do any
shut your mouth
classes. I mean, I was a
how
slacker
dare
in college
you
for
bring
sure.
up my college experience.
I was a slacker for sure, but the idea is like you're paying for it, like, you know, especially you should put. I guess you could argue like you're paying for it, you might as well put what you want into it.
Yeah, for sure.
But in any case, I totally agree, and the Grammys were created as a way to recognize artists that were not being recognized by other awards.
Yeah.
And they sort of
so
just
ironic and funny.
Yeah. Well, but these artists were like, Grammys were created to like give Sinatra awards, basically. Like, it was like, we want to give old school
instead of George Gershwin.
Well, no. Like, it was like to give George Gershwin awards and not give Elvis awards.
Yeah.
For example, it was like to give
I gotcha.
traditional recording artists.
Yes.
And so they've always had this problem with being like what's most palatable to a broad white American audience, right?
Sure.
And it's like there's a great podcast about pop music and the charts, and there's an episode specifically about this. It's called Hit Parade. It's a great podcast. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you read Tom Bryan's stuff on Stereo Gum? He does the he goes in order chronologically, writing an article every week about Billboard #1 hit. And it started in whatever the 50s or whatever, and now I think we're up to 2017. And
Okay,
he does a deep dive. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's great.
I don't. The host of Hit
he
Parade
mentions
is
that
named Chris
podcast you're talking
Malamphy.
about.
Yeah, and he has an article for Slate that is called "Why Is This Song #1," where he sort of analyzes all the factors of why a song hits #1.
Yeah.
He's been pretty bored lately, I think, because it's been the same #1 for 17 weeks. That Shabuzi bar song or whatever it's called has been #1.
Oh, is
forever.
it? I haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
Your beard
it's
is
important.
beard is looking very full and luscious, and no gray.
Well, if I don't turn to the side, it looks good.
Yeah.
That's my.
It's good,
That's your
man.
go-to, just walk in straight lines towards people?
Yeah, just always face people. I mean, it's good practice, anyways. Make strong eye contact with people directly. Look them in the face.
Yeah.
Look like a young Charlton Heston.
Well, that's a compliment. Thank you.
Ryan's a big NRA guy. Everybody's been talking.
That's right.
So we struggle mightily with brevity on this podcast.
Our intentions are good. Our intentions are brevity.
Our intentions are 45 minutes in and out, bing, bang, boom.
Yeah.
I think we have yet to be under an hour since our first podcast.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's
It's hard.
with me editing
It's hard,
a
yeah.
lot.
Oh, yeah, that's with him editing. We start at like an hour and a half.
I feel like we should just have two podcasts, one where we talk about real estate and neighborhoods, and then the other is the people we interview, because you guys are more interesting than most of that stuff.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's tough though. The podcast I had we rarely kept it under 2.5 hours.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
That's a listen.
There's
People did though.
That's
There's
awesome.
a podcast I listen to called Bandsplain with Yasi Salek, which I love. And she does deep dives on specific artists. And they're sometimes 5 hours. I mean, I listen to every second of it.
That's
People
amazing.
like
Maybe
long
we shouldn't care
podcasts.
about it. People can fast forward, they can skip, they can do what they want, right? It's so
Yeah.
It's free for
I
them.
actually find the ones I listen to and like that are shorter, that are 45 minutes or whatever, I'm always like, this should have been longer.
yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
I like that.
I like
I'm
that
always
too.
getting it from my wife, who's like, anything over half an hour, I'm done. It's all I
Listen,
can do.
I'm a huge fan of brevity, period. Like, I do think most of the time you want to be quick, but with podcasts, people are always doing something else when they're
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
just sits down and just like focuses on a podcast.
No,
right?
they're washing dishes or driving or
So
whatever.
it can be as long as it needs to be, because nobody expects to go, I'm going to finish this right now.
Fuck it, man. Let's talk about your childhood.
Well, I wanted to
I'd
talk.
rather not talk about that.
I wanted to talk about. So Casey said you're a vegetarian, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if that's both you and your wife, but I know you do spend X amount of months here every year. And my family, we've started a tradition of every February we go vegetarian for the whole month.
Yeah.
We go meatless Mondays in my house.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. And since you do spend still a pretty good amount of time here, what are some of your favorite dishes around the Twin Cities when you're not cooking at home, if you go out to eat, and or some places that you frequent when you are here?
Yeah.
So I got to look it up because I forget the name of it.
We can probably help figure it out.
I think is it called Alma? No, that's
Oh,
in
yeah.
LA.
Cafe
Yeah.
Alma.
Alma on University?
It's like a
Yes.
hotel and a cafe. Yeah.
So they have like a vegetarian tasting menu.
Phenomenal.
We go there once a year, and
Okay.
it's always spectacular. But that's
Yes.
like, foodie fine dining. shit.
Yeah, but it's
like
incredible.
$200 or something, right?
My
Yeah.
son
The
goes to
vast
school with
majority
that
of my
girl.
eating when I eat out is absolute shit. Carboni's is my favorite restaurant.
What is?
So Carboni's, like,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
What do
as
you
we've
get
already
there, then?
discussed.
Because pizza's
Oh,
generally
cheese
a very
pizza with
meat
lots of
specific.
veggies, man. Like, yeah,
Okay.
you don't need to get meat. Pizza is one of the easiest things to go vegetarian on. Vegan
You're
is
right,
a
it
different
is, but it's
story.
so traditionally connected with pepperoni and sausage.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I miss pepperoni. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It is good, but I just
Do you
don't
like
eat it.
Luce?
So
Do you
What's that?
do you like Luce?
oh, we
for
go to
the-
Luce all the time.
for the stuff they
Luce has
provide?
great vegetarian options.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
one of the
that's
most
what-
consistent.
Yeah,
good.
super great vegetarian and vegan options.
Yeah.
I think their pizza's fine.
It's fine. The crust needs work.
They're not going to change anything. They're hugely successful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to give them notes. They're fine. But I like their other stuff, like their mock chicken sandwich is super good.
I know the corporate chef of Pizza Luce. Maybe we can have him on.
Oh, well, let me tell you this. They got rid of their best salad, and it's the best salad I've ever had. It's called the Super Greens. I don't know why people didn't order it, because they got rid of it, probably because people didn't order it.
Yeah,
But it was
usually
so
it's
good.
a
It had,
supply
like,
and demand thing.
yeah, I miss it. I don't know why they got rid of it. but
I'll text him. I'll let him know.
tell them there's one fan of the Super
Yeah.
Greens salad out
Bring
there.
it back for this
Actually,
guy
two.
that lives
My
in
wife and I
LA.
both. But yeah, so Luce, we go there a lot. Obviously, Jay Selby's is incredible. Which they're now owned by the herbivorous butcher people, right?
Have you been to? Have you
Herbie's
been? We
Chicken?
talked about Herbie's. Have you been to Herbie's?
Oh no, but there is a place, Stock and Spade or something. It's
Yeah,
out
Stock
in the
and
western
Spade, yeah.
They have an incredible fake fried chicken sandwich that
Okay.
blew
Is that
my
in
mind.
North Loop? I can't remember.
No, well, it might be now. The one I went to was when they first started. It was way the f out in one of those really rich suburbs on the
So
west side.
Wyzetta.
Dude, the last time we met for lunch was at the Red Cow.
Yeah,
Why on earth did you let me
because
or
I
you
can
choose
eat
the Red
almost
Cow?
anywhere,
Yeah.
almost everywhere now because of the Impossible Burger and the Beyond Burger. Like
Yeah.
almost everywhere has one of those or a
Yeah.
veggie burger.
And you
so
can
I don't
deal
really
with that.
care. Like I'm not interested in like making a big deal out of my vegetarianism when I'm
Sure.
meeting someone for lunch. So
Sure.
so I'm usually pretty flexible, but yeah, you can find something good almost anywhere. Like Korean barbecue, kind of hard, but
How hardcore do you go? Can you eat Thai and Vietnamese food and food with like fish sauce in it, or does fish sauce?
I'm not really a fish eater. I don't really eat fish, but so I wouldn't do that. But
Caesar salads. That's how I
all
got.
of the like Thai, Vietnamese, they all have vegetarian options. It's even easier usually.
Yeah,
'cause
but,
they often.
but generally they use fish sauce in their like flavor. I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, it's
you
possible
care
I've
about
eaten
that.
some fish sauce on accident. Though,
Yeah,
unknowingly, but
Sure. Oh, that's
but,
good to know that
yeah.
that you can generally go anywhere and find something, especially
it's easier now for
these
sure.
days, right? Than it was 10 years ago or whatever.
There was an Indian restaurant in Roseville that I freaking loved.
India Palace, right by Golf Galaxy,
It might be
and
that one,
the
yeah.
old home furniture.
Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Because paneer is the shit, by the way.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
vegetarian, like that. Indian restaurants where they put paneer instead of, because a lot of these like Indian and Thai and stuff, they let you choose your meat, right? So that
Yeah.
means they make it all and then add the meat later.
Yeah.
Which
Yep.
you could just get it without the meat and it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we do a lot of tofu options, but in particular, that India Palace, that Indian restaurant, one of the best in the cities. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's really good.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Tell people where they can maybe follow you or keep up with what you're doing, or Rick and Morty wise, like your socials, if you care to share them.
Yeah,
you mentioned
I mean,
about
I'm at
doxing
Ryan Elder
yourself
Music
earlier.
everywhere, basically. So you can follow me there if you want. I don't really tweet about stuff, or I don't really like put out a lot of social media content. But mostly when I do, I'm not really on Twitter anymore, but when I do the new ones,
Blue Sky, I found you there yesterday.
yeah, I'm on there. I don't really, what do they call it? Skeeting?
They do call it skeeting, which is
So-
ridiculous. They should
So
call it
for me,
any
it's like
other
they
thing.
were just, I guess they were deciding between bleeding which I think makes more sense because that's like an actual noise.
Skeet, Ryan.
But skeeting is grosser, so it's better.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna stick. But
what about
it's already stuck.
Yeah.
have you? So not to dive into a whole other topic, but I know that you have a healthy love for reality TV and in particular, like the Survivor-esque type series.
Yeah, anything that's sort of Survivor adjacent, strategy based.
And you've been on like a celebrity version of something. Like, I don't know if I'm getting this right.
Not a celebrity version.
What was it?
There's a whole community of people who do like homebrew Survivor games.
Gotcha.
And there's, in particular in Minnesota, there's 2 now charity groups that do a Survivor weekend. It's a 4-day camp in the woods, vote each other out of the tribe type situation.
So this is not a televised event where we can go watch your suffering?
I mean, it is on YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
I played twice, and you raise money for charity, and then 400 of the money you raise goes to the winner's charity, and the rest goes to your charity. So,
okay.
You know, I raised like a couple grand, and then 400 went to the winner's charity. I didn't.
That's
win.
amazing.
It's really cool. The winner like gets like between 5 and 8 grand for their charity, depending on the season, how many players there are. And it's just a really well-run event, and they film it. Like, I've been volunteering as like the sort of camp life film director, where I like pull people aside for confessionals, and they try to make it as like realistic to the real show as possible, and give people this experience because they're raising like a ton of money for charities.
That's awesome.
So like, it's like, let's reward them with the experience of feeling like they were on a real reality TV show, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a dream for a lot of people, but like not everyone is hot or funny or
Sure.
interested in getting in conflict.
Yeah.
So they want to just play Survivor and vote people out.
Yeah.
So it's filmed, it's put on YouTube. It's called Live to Give. And then there's another one that's starting up called Midwest Charity Trials.
Okay. Awesome.
And they're both great charity events. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm obsessed with strategy, and those games offer a lot of strategy. So I'm also into sports and anything, any games so a lot of my like online discussions where I'm putting myself out there is like my thoughts about reality TV or strategy games or whatever.
Sure.
So you're more that focused reality. You're not like Bachelorette reality.
No, not really a fan of the ones where there's no
Love is Blind.
I personally have never watched any of those, and I feel like people watch it because it's a train wreck, but maybe people are earnest about their love for these things, but I don't know.
I think they love the train wreck.
Maybe.
Well, there's definitely, so the bad ones, well, I call them bad, but a lot of people love them. The ones like The Bachelor. I watched The Golden Bachelor, and at first it was really like kind of a delight, but then eventually it was like, okay, I'm starting to see the strings here.
Yeah.
Too much, and I didn't like that. But yeah, I mean, I think people do watch it for the train wreck, right? Like that's the draw for a lot of people. That's why they watch. That's why, frankly, I stopped watching Big Brother, because the focus was too much on the train wreck and not enough on the like strategic elements of how to play the game.
Yeah.
So it varies. I mean, listen, I'm not opposed to a train wreck. Sometimes they're fun, right?
I mean, for my money, reality TV peaked in Real World season 3. So who am I to say? That was San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
With Puck.
With Puck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys know about the David's Dead story?
No.
It's on Big Brother
Why do I
UK.
know what that is?
It's because it's fucking iconic, man. Basically, David Bowie's ex-wife was on Celebrity Big Brother in the UK, right? And there happened to be another guy on the cast named David.
Okay.
So in the middle of filming, David Bowie died, and production informed his ex-wife of his passing. And she, reasonably had a very emotional response to that. But all she said to the rest of the cast was, "David's dead." Now, they thought she was talking about the castmate that they had on the show with them, who was in bed sleeping, and they didn't know. So it became this huge drama. And the cast is like freaking out and crying, and they think this guy's dead.
Oh, and he's just taking a nap.
Yeah, and
amazing.
she's not correcting them. She's not in her right
What
mind.
was it like when he woke up and walked out to the living room?
It's incredible, man. You got to look up David's Dead on YouTube.
Right.
It's some of the funniest reality TV you'll ever see.
That's the to-do list for me
That's
today.
fantastic.
I mean, it's less funny if David Bowie wasn't a creep, but
Yeah.
it makes it funny to me.
Dude, thank you so much for joining us today, and it's always good to see your face and have a conversation. I feel like it's been too long personally, but I'm really happy that you could bless us on the podcast here and we could chat for a little bit.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to talk about the process and the business and stuff. And hopefully I didn't get too inside baseball.
No,
but,
love it.
Love Inside Baseball. Ryan, we really appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
This must be the place. Yeah, this must be the